Good afternoon and welcome to everyone who's joined for this fourth webinar in the Enrich Your Knowledge series. It's my pleasure to introduce it to you, and I will host and try and keep housekeeping and to time in what is quite a full program. My name's Nigel Wagstaff. I'm Innovation Advisor at EATRIS, which is the research infrastructure for translational medicine. And I'm involved in a number of activities in the Enriched program. This will be a webinar for about 1.5 hours. You are asked, kindly requested, to use the chat box to type your questions during the presentations. And there will be in this webinar presentations by a number of speakers whom I will introduce now, and an interactive breakout sessions. These are the speakers: Rebecca Ludwig, Senior Education Training Manager with EATRIS; Jorge Lopez, who is an Industry Liaison Officer in Spain working at CDTI; Kurt Burtscher from B2 Match, who will be talking about brokerage and matchmaking tools; and then Angela Joubert will give a short introduction to what is coming up as a call for brokerage events. We'll talk you into that a little bit. Then there will be group work in breakout room and a plenary discussion. There's now a poll which I think, Laurent, you're now asked to complete before we go further. So would you please fill in the responses to those questions? This series of webinars is part of the Enriched project, which is led by the European Installation Source, and the project aims to build a permanent pan-European network of ILOs and ICOs, industry liaison officers and contact officers, and to enable industry to become a full partner of research infrastructures in various capacities. And this series of webinars involve online training and organizational webinars targeted to experts involved in collaborations between RI and industry, such as ILOs and ICOs, but not limited to them. And the overall aim is to share knowledge and expertise and skills. Now, this particular webinar is a very actual and relevant topic because it's about digital events. And we've seen a tremendous surge in activity in this area the last year and a half. And we believe strongly that it will remain an important element of brokerage and collaboration between RIs and industry. In this webinar, we have experts from several RI domains and other entities to give you practical information on how to get the most out of and how to organize effectively digital events, and there's quite a range of experience there. We will also give the opportunity to exchange experiences in an interactive session, and you will hear a little bit more about that shortly. The agenda, and this is slightly different from what was in the pre-reading, but these are the speakers: Rebecca Ludwig, Jorge Lopez Reig and Kurt Burtscher will look at various aspects of organizing digital events. If there's time, I will give a very short presentation on a best practice guide, which is a deliverable from the Enriched project. It's not yet available, but will become available when it has been approved. But I can describe a little bit the work that went into it. Then Angela Joubert, I'm sorry, her surname has fallen off, but we'll give a short introduction to a coming call for associate brokerage events for which some funds are available, and she will let you know what can be applied for and what the rules are and how to go about that. Then we will have an interactive exchange of experience in discussing 3 topics which Rebecca will introduce to you in her presentation. We will have from each of the 3 groups, the 3 breakout groups, some feedback for a short final discussion. As you can see, it's a very full program. We will aim to close it after 90 minutes, as envisaged, but there will be an opportunity to continue discussion for those who would like to stay on. Rebecca Ludwig is Senior Education and Training Manager at EATRIS. I will now do the quick bios of the speakers, and has been extensively involved as trainer in a number of programs, including EOSC Live and numerous trainings and facilitator and design interactive workshops. Jorge Lopez Reig is an ILO with the Spanish CDTI innovation entity, and has been extensively involved as an ILO in promoting contact between big science and research infrastructures. Kurt Burtscher is a co-founder of B2 Match, and I won't go verbally through his quite long resume, but when you read it, you will see that he has long experience of advising industry on how to do this, and has seen shortcomings, which meant that at a certain point in time, he in fact co-founded B2 Match and has looked for more successful matchmaking tools, which have now been adapted to virtual platform. So we'll be talking about that. And Charles Schubert has extensive experience as a consultant supporting public and private organizations in Europe, and will talk as an Enriched project coordinator about the call that I mentioned to you. This is the final slide, which you don't yet need. Having said that, if there are any quick questions on the agenda or on housekeeping matters, now is the time to ask them. Otherwise, all will be revealed, and I will give the floor to Rebecca Ludwig for the first presentation. Do I need to stop sharing? Yeah, okay. Rebecca.
I don't see the green frame showing that you see my slide. You see the slide? Okay, great. Well, very nice meeting you. And it's a pleasure to give a short 10-minute introduction how to ensure interactivity in digital events. And like Nigel said, I'm Rebecca, and I'm the Education and Training Manager at EATRIS. For me, the core of interactivity is that it involves and activates participants. And the focus, if you think about interactivity, are the participants rather than lecturers or the host, like it's quite often in, let's say, for example, normal trainings. And today I will look at the interactivity during live and synchronous events like we are having just now. As I said, it's all about the participants. So I would like to get to know you a bit better. And for that, I would like to you to rename yourself with your first name and the country where you're currently joining from. So for this, you can go to the 3 dots next to your video tile, and then you can rename yourself. And I will do that because for me it will be Rebecca, and I'm joining now from Germany. So let me see what else we have. So, see, we have people joining from France. And for this interactive session, it would be also very much welcome if you could turn on your video. You will need that later anyhow. So I see people joining from Spain as well. So it shows me that we have a really international audience here. And that reminds me also of being careful not to talk too fast or using too much jargon. So in the next step, can you please rename yourself again with the first name, but then add the organization you're joining for and your role. So in case you're a partner of Enriched and an ILO or ICO, please add that. So again, I also do the renaming. So let me see what kind of participants we have in this group. So we have ILOs, scientific employees. If you don't manage to rename yourself, there are 3 dots next to your video tile, and you can click there and then you can rename yourself, or alternatively you go via the participant button, and there you can also find your name and rename yourself. So we have an ILO from CDTI, I see. So quite a mixed audience here. That's nice to see. For me personally, virtual settings can feel like a bit of a black hole, especially like after almost 1.5 years of Corona pandemic. I don't like talking to black holes. And today what I would like to show to you is that virtual settings also can be very interactive, and introduce to you a few of the tools that can help to achieving real interactivity in virtual settings. And one of the core elements to me is the video, and it's a great tool to check in on participants and also to identify and build groups. And I will explain this to you, how this works, you know, during this session. So I would like to ask everybody to turn on his or her video, so that we can I show you the first activity that is called arm barometer. That is a really nice way to check in on participants. So how it works is you use your arm to indicate a very low scale or very high one. So if I would ask you, you know, how much do you like ice cream? This one would be, or really hate it. This one would love it all the tons. So for me, in case of ice cream, I would put it here. The question, oh, we have a big ice cream fan there. Probably it's also quite hot with where you are at the moment. So the question I would like to ask you to answer with this arm barometer is that, how confident are you that interactivity can be reached during virtual events? So if you're not confident at all, please put your arm here. If you're very confident, put it here. So can I see your arm? So I see a lot of average one, some very pessimistic one, some very optimistic one. So what I hope that by the end of the day is that your arm got a bit higher, so you're a bit more confident because you are aware of a few more tools. So the other aspect that I said, how videos can be used, is to identify or build groups. So for that exercise, I would like to now ask you to switch off your video and only turn it on in case you're in ICO within Enriched. So I turn myself off as well. So we have only 2 ICOs. Oh, we have Claudia being an ICO and Juliana being an ICO. Okay. So I'm just struggling with my control panel. Sorry about that. So now can you switch off your camera again and switch it on in case you're in ICO? Do we have ICOs here?
Sorry,
No.
ILOs, I think we've just done ICOs.
Oh, sorry. Okay, ILOs. Sorry for confusing you. Can the ILOs please turn on their video? Okay, we have quite a few ILOs here. And Jorge, Javier. 2 more. I don't see the surnames. So again, there you would see, you know, who else is ILO within you. And then the ILOs, can you please switch off the camera, and then everybody who is not an ILO or ICO switches on the camera. So how here we have the diverse crowd of training managers, scientific staff, and so on. Hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for that, for playing along with me. So other easy tools for collaboration during virtual events are joint note-taking documents, and we will use that in today's breakout session. We will use a Google Doc to share our notes. And another tool that I find personally very helpful is virtual sticky notes, because I use sticky notes a lot in face-to-face trainings, and there are lots of virtual equivalents like in Padlet, Miro, or Concept Board. And here you see a screenshot of a virtual sticky board we used for one of our one-day events, where we asked participants to indicate topics they would like to explore during the workshop. So the participants submitted the different sticky notes, and then it was quite easy to cluster them into different groups by color coding and moving them around on the board. So that's an extremely helpful and quite low-tech tool. I will not go into more tools in detail right now, but maybe to advertise the upcoming deliverable on that Enriched is preparing, and also to highlight that form should always follow function. So the tool is really secondary. You first need to know what is the main objective of your event, and you really need to know your audience, especially their expectations, but also their work culture, digital skills and language skills. And it also helps very much to analyze previous editions for strength. So things you would really like to keep in a virtual setting, but also identify additional opportunities of having it online. So, and only then you start designing the agenda and identify the tools. And one last take-home message. If you identify tools, stay simple. Don't use too many tools, but select one or two. And then test, because usually if you don't test, something goes wrong, and that even applies to Zoom, which we are using quite a lot, but because they keep on updating the system, and it's also different from organization to organization, the test is really the key. And with that, I would like to know whether there are any questions at the moment. If there are none, I would like to finish and ask you to rename yourself so that we can start preparing the breakout rooms for later today. We will have 3 topics that you can discuss with your peers today. Topic A would be how to foster interaction among participants. B would be video conference and collaboration tools. And C would be how to keep attention of participants. So, and you will have half an hour later today to discuss with your colleagues and, exchange your experiences, questions and challenges. And so please rename yourself and add the letter of the breakout room you would like to join before your name. So if I would like to really discuss how to keep attention of participants, I would just add the C in front of my name. If you don't mind, you do a question mark, or like Lauren did, ABC. But if you do that now, that will really help us in sorting you into the breakout rooms later. So A would be foster interaction, B would be video conferencing and collaboration tools, and C, how to keep attention of participants. So if you could rename yourself now so that we can later sort yourself. Are there any questions? I'm happy to take any questions or comments now.
Yeah, in the meantime, we had a question from Claudia in the chat. Claudia, maybe you would like to unmute yourself and ask it.
Okay, certainly. Yeah, I was wondering if you're using tools like Padlet or so. How do you document the outcomes of a meeting? Because I often see that people take screenshots, and I actually find that that is of very limited use because you cannot read it very well afterwards and cannot extract information. And I have to say, I'm also not a big fan of the classical whiteboard either. So it's a bit similar. So how do you work with that afterwards?
I think it depends very much. So in Padlet, as far as I know, you can export as a PDF, but also as an Excel table so that you can, work with it and you have an editable format afterwards. It depends a bit on if it's just for documentation, then I think a PDF is nice because it's easier to grasp visually. If you need to further work with it, then the Padlet itself you can share, so that just the link of the sticky notes, or just transfer it to Excel, and then you can also continue editing it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of visual notes because that reminds people of the outcome of the meeting quite often better than just the written minutes. Okay, I see we have most of them renamed, a few renamed, so thanks. And if there are no more questions, I'm happy to hand over to Nigel.
Okay, thank you very much, Rebecca. There are no more questions, I think, in the chat. Dealt with. In that case, I give the floor to Jorge Lopez for his presentation. Jorge, can you take over?
Very well. Thank you very much, Nigel. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jorge Lopez. I'm working at CDTI, which is an innovation agency in Spain. As you can imagine, since 1.5 years, being an innovation agency, you have to meet a lot of people, you have to organize a lot of meetings, and we have to be, we decided not to stop in our working, and we decided to learn how to do it. And that's why I am here today, because I am going to exchange with you what has been our experience in learning step by step on how to organize webinars, online webinars, being an ILO, okay? CDTI, our content, the content of my presentation will cover very briefly 3 topics. First, our experience on during this 1.5 years, the types of formats of the webinars we have been organizing or co-organizing, because as Rebecca said, first comes the need and the type of meeting and the type of audience, and then comes the agenda or the format of the webinar. This is very important. And later,
excuse me, we don't see your slides.
Really? Okay, let me check. Okay, do you see my slides now?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, as I was mentioning, I'm going to share with you 3 types of different webinars, and later I will draw out important topics, important lessons learned on how to organize those webinars, and in particular the key factors for each of the different formats. As I mentioned, CDTI it's an innovation agency. We are used to organize physical events with industry, with the European Union, with different agencies. And one of the Spanish roles is to be an ILO of big science organizations. In this role, we have contacts with research infrastructures, we have contacts with industry, we have contacts with the government, and we have to bring together big science organizations with industry and let them to talk. There are meetings in which it is more one-direction communication, in which there are some presentations and then people explain what they want to explain, and the audience just listen. Usually, at the end of those presentations, there are questions, but not always the questions could be made in public, and therefore it is needed a B2B model. In physical terms, then you organize rooms and people meet each other and then stays for the rest of the evening talking about their private projects or the private ideas. But now with the pandemic, we have to do the same, but virtually. So we have been able to learn very quickly on those new tools to organize B2B meetings online. Also, sometimes we have different meetings in which it is more a working meeting. It is more a workshop in which you need to express ideas and you need to interact more actively. Then you need to draw out conclusions, and then you need tools, more elaborate tools to make the people interact. And until now, in a physical event, this was very easy. You put the people around the table, and then you put some coffee, and then they start to work. Now it's different. You have to have a moderator, very clever moderator, to make the people start to talk, to make the people share, as Rebecca did, asking us to share our names or to raise our hand. You have to start to make the people feel comfortable sharing, and then sharing their ideas or their thesis on some aspect, and then making questions, and then it is like a wave. Everyone gets involved, and then interaction and output breaks such as an explosion. And this is very difficult because you need to balance a very skilled motivation person with an IT tool that facilitates this. Okay, now I'm going to share with you 3 different experiences in the past year, in which we have been experienced the day by day with try and error in our day by day. The first case is the Big Science Business Forum. The Big Science Business Forum is a physical event that is going to happen in Granada in 2022. Unfortunately, it was delayed, and unfortunately, it was delayed twice because of the pandemic. And therefore, we had to maintain the people aware, maintain the people interested in the event. And that's why we need to create a parallel virtual Big Science Business Forum in the form of a Big Science Business Forum webinars. So we decided to keep the people interested, to keep with the branding of the BSBF, to keep involved the big science organizations and industry on not only what is going to happen in 2022, but also on new things. We have to create the interest. So this is a very important point. You need to interest the audience. In our case, we select news or interesting topics regarding Big Science Business Forum or Big Science Market, mainly procurement opportunities or technology transfer ideas or consequences of the COVID pandemic. In your case, when you are going to organize something, you have to really choose a very interesting topic, because people have to not only register, also remember that they have been registered, and then link to the webinar. Nowadays, I don't know if you have the same, but we have thousands and thousands, I mean, not thousands, hundreds and hundreds of webinars going around. It's difficult to choose which one is the most interesting one. You have to be very clever advertising with a very strong message that your webinar is really interesting. We did it, and we programmed a very, very long program through this 1.5 years, and we created 7 webinars. 3 of them are having already take place. First one regarding COVID impact, the second one regarding big science organization strategic plans and procurements in the first years. The third one, very important one, about the technology transfer with prominent people coming. This is also very important. If you want to attract people, you have to really invite speakers, important ones. The fourth one is fifth and sixth ones are going to be in October, November, and December this year about astronomy, about energy, and about particle science and accelerators. Those are going to be technical ones. And the last one is going to be a purely promotional one of the BSBF 2022 for going along all the program and going in detail to all the activities. This type of webinar are the type of webinars in which very good speakers give their presentations as a master presentation. They explain everything, and at the end, people ask questions. Okay, maybe in writing, maybe in person, but this is the format we have been using. I have to say that there has been a great success, but they were a little bit lacking of interaction. Okay, now I am going to the second example. The second example are the type of webinars, the type of meetings we organize if you are an ILO. If you are an ILO, you would like to put in contact big research infrastructures, in this case, big science organizations, such as CERN, ESA, ESRF, or ISO, or European XFEL, and the others, with industry. Because you want those big organizations to talk about how to do business with them, how are their procurement rules, which are their evaluation criteria, or tell everything how those organizations works vis-a-vis in relation with industry. Also, maybe they also want to know about how is the procurement web and how is the procurement process. But now comes the important thing, because those two first ones are one directional way. Okay, maybe they could ask, the industry could ask questions, but questions most of the times that could be public. But now comes the meat, which is sometimes big science organizations would like to talk strategic plans and new projects and procurement opportunities, concrete procurement opportunities, our contracts, and about technology, and also ideas for technology transfer. And those communications is not one directional. This is to be directional because this is the start of a dialogue between two parties. And therefore, in these ILO webinars between research infrastructures and industry, it is mandatory to have at the end of the webinar a B2B meeting, a B2B contact in which industry and the research infrastructure can talk freely and confidentially. Because what is going to be in this meeting, it could be the beginning of a relationship or a contract or a technology transfer idea or wherever. And therefore, it is essential to provide to this kind of meetings B2B tools and B2B meetings. And that's why in those days that we are now, in which we cannot meet together, we have to use and we have to learn very cleverly the B2B models of different IT tools. And I think this is common to CDTI, to ILO-net, to Danish Technology Institute, to Big Science Sweden, or any other ILO organization around Europe or around the world. And now I am going to talk about a third category of the webinar, which is not really a webinar, it is a workshop. It is a, and I took the example of the famous Enriched focus groups. This is a meeting organized by a host in which the participants are there to share, to discuss, to create new things. Maybe there is, of course, a host that is promoting interaction, which is really creating this atmosphere in which everyone can share and contribute. But it is a place in which you have to really interact and create. The example of the Enriched focus groups, it is the case in which ILOs, I mean, the Enriched is defining some advice for ILOs and ICOs to develop strategies for innovation, training, outreach, and formulating policy recommendations to encourage efficient interaction between ILOs and ICOs and industry. And in Enriched, we have created 5 focus groups, and in each of them, we have to exercise this interaction. And now we have to do it via online. In this case, there are 2 roles which are really critical. The first is an efficient moderator, an efficient moderator that prepares in advance everything that is going to be treated, a moderator that starts asking the people to interact, sometimes by easy questions or by straightforward answers, just saying from which country you are or which is your favorite dessert. And at the end, you will start to sharing what is your point of view or what is the more efficient way in which an ICO and an ILO can interact with the industry in different aspects. So it is a process in which you get involved by an efficient work of a moderator, helped by an IT tool, because if not, everything is a little bit deorganized and a little bit as a mess. And regarding these IT tools, I think there are some on the market. I'm going to show you which are the ones we have been using, but this is just because I had experience with them.
Okay, with a view to the timing, could you maybe round off in the coming couple of minutes?
Very well. I will use the Ed Marshall broke English just to do that. Another important thing is that you have to have a B2B tool in which you create your profile, you register, you put your schedule of availability, and then the B2B meeting system arrange your B2B meetings with interesting people on meeting you. As I told you, for efficient moderate, on top and on the workshops, in addition to an efficient moderator, you need an IT tool that put on the screen clouds of words or statements or whatever, just to help you to summarize what the people are contributing. And I'm used to use Mentimeter or Slido or Zoom Pools. Some has advantages, some disadvantages, but there are many tools on the market that can help you. Use them because they are very, very helpful. And just to conclude, I would like to tell you that another thing that it is very important on webinars are the communication and promotion. If not, you can find yourself of having an excellent, perfect meeting, but with very limited audience. You need to put effort on attracting people through, for instance, with a YouTube channel, creating news about your event, with social media, of course, with your web. And also you have to take into account the help of your ILOs association, if you're an ILO, because at the end, you are doing activities which is not only in one country, it's at European level, and you have to rely on the sharing of and the communication from similar organizations like you. And that's all. I hope I give you some keys on what is important from my experience during this 1.5 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jorge. Very interesting, very much from your experience the last year, and introducing new now tools, which is, I think, an important element. If there are questions, I would invite you to put them on the chat, and the speakers can look at the chat and maybe answer them in view of the time, because I would now like to move, with thanks to our speakers thus far, to Kurt Burtscher, who will develop the concept of tools for matchmaking further from his particular experience. Kurt, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm just start sharing my screen, so just a second. Can everybody see my slide, just to be sure we are on? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, it's
okay. That's fine. Thank you. Yes. Okay, my today's presentation is how to adapt in times of change, the story of B2Match and Corona. Yes, that was a story when we lose 70% of the orders. So that's why we had to prepare for Corona. A few short words on my person. So I'm Kurt Burtscher, co-founder of B2Match. B2Match, we have been founded in 2013. We have offices in Vienna, Zagreb, about 30 plus employees, a yearly growth rate with our networking events by 30%. In 2020, we have managed 850 events, and this year probably some around 1,000 events. And B2Match, we call ourselves the event networking platform when one-to-one connection should be more than only small talk. I give a very short overview. What is B2Match? B2Match, it's the name stands for matchmaking, B2B networking, smart event management, participant registration and ticketing, event communication, marketing, and of course, managing all these webinar live streams, etc. A few very quick figures about B2Match. 5,000 events so far, 800,000 matchmaking meetings, and more or less about 800 event organizers using the B2Match tool. So to summarize, I guess we are rather experienced and provider of a B2Match platform. Yeah, and here in this picture, you can see what Corona caused. On the left side, so the good old times, this was a typical one-to-one meeting. People were sitting on numbered table, having their 15 or 20 minutes one-to-one meeting. And this was a well-proven process over years, over the last 10 years. And in March, so last year, March, April, June, yes, I guess I don't have to tell you what these two little pictures stand for. Yeah, Corona, and everything changed. And now you see, if you compare the two pictures left and right, you see it's different. It's really different. So how you can go from on-site to virtual. Here are very quick figures on B2Match. So the gray figures are the number of events we managed in 2019. The gray panels are the figures in 2019. The 2020 is the green one, and you can see here with the red colors. So we have a dramatic decrease of events. Nobody did make any on-site event anymore in March, April, May in 2020. Luckily, we could develop a virtual solution, and after these 3 months, we got a steadily increase over the next months. Yeah, at the beginning, it was really looking good. Then Corona time, 70% decrease in sales. And luckily in June, July, we got the first orders. And as you can see here in the late part of the year, so in the autumn and winter season, the number of events, luckily, come back to good old times and even more. And for in the second screen, you can see at the beginning, this was the on-site event period, and the blue bars indicate the virtual event. So in January, February, all the events was on site, and then from that moment on in April, May, we had a few, very few events, but let's say from summer onwards, more or less 90% of the events was virtual event. That's how the event changed from on-site to 100% virtual in a very short time. As I mentioned, in March, we switched. So yeah, and how did B2Match manage this transformation from an on-site matchmaking portal to a virtual matchmaking portal? First of all, through innovative stuff, doing more than expected. Our IT team worked in March, April, May, and that's 3 months where we transformed B2Match from an online tool to a webinar tool. We worked 60 hours a week and even more for a full quarter of year from March to June. By the way, yes, a 70% decrease in turnover can really mobilize hidden forces. And luckily, we succeeded. We could change an on-site platform to a virtual platform. And this we also did through technology. So we had to find software replacements for the one-to-one meetings, which has been scheduled on the tables, for the workshop who have taken place in the room with coffees, etc., and tables. And of course, for the large presentation, for the keynote presentation. So all this stuff we had to find replacements. So the one-to-one table meetings have to be moved to one-to-one video calls, the workshops to video conferencing, to webinars, and the keynote presentation goes there in the direction of live streams. And here, yeah, the first thing we had to change or we had to switch was the one-to-one meetings scheduled at table to one-to-one video calls, because one-to-one meeting is the DNA of B2Match. So we are somehow, let's say, one-to-one B2B meetings. Yeah, and on the on-site, you see you get nice table on paper, PDF file showing your next meeting is at 10 o'clock at table 80, the next meeting 10:38, table 85. With Corona, all these table issues are gone. Now you get a screen, everything is online, everything is on in the internet, everything is virtual. Here you have your meeting list, not anymore on a PDF file. It just say your next meeting is at 9:30 and there's a green button, start meeting in 5 minutes. So if you want to join a meeting, you don't move to a table, you just press a button and then you are in a one-to-one private video call room. And how did we manage this? For the one-to-one video call, B2Match was using Twilio.com. That's a premium provider for video calls. And they provide a server for infrastructure around the globe. And that's really important. If you have events with 3,000 meetings in one afternoon, you must rely on a premium provider. And by the way, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We are in favor. We are a small company, 30 employees. And that's why we rely on integrating a proven third-party tools to make a faster development, to have less hassles. By the way, we are not able to develop a Skype platform, something similar like with Skype or Teams. It's too much work, too much programming, too much goes and back and forth. That's why we rely on a proven technology provider, which has been found by Twilio.com. Sorry? Okay. The one-to-one meeting features. So the B2Match one-to-one meeting features are 100% virtual video calls, 100% browser operated. We can take up to 6 guests in a one-to-one meeting room. And we can share screen and the participant can chat, can reschedule the meeting, etc. Lessons learned from the one-to-one meetings. 20-minute works best for a private one-to-one meeting. We have much more meetings through as we don't have any more some limitations. We have 20% more no-shows compared to the real meeting, as a virtual meeting is never that binding than a physical one. And the video calls have really proven well for a first go or no-go decision for potential future collaborations. So this was the switch for the one-to-one meetings from table to video call. The second switch we did from workshop to video conferencing. You see in the left side, on-site, that how it looked on-site. Now virtually it looks like this in the second picture. And for the video conferencing, B2Match use two solutions. One is the built-in solution via daily.co. That's also, again, a third-party provider offering easy integration of webinars on any website. And of course, those who are familiar with Zoom, Teams, WebEx session, we offer easy integration of these external video tools which can be managed on the B2Match platform. So in a minute, you can integrate a Zoom session into the B2Match platform, and that's fine. Lessons learned for the workshops, the daily CO, as the daily system is not that powerful than let's say Zoom or Teams. We have a limit of, let's say, 20, 30, maximum 40 participants. It's a perfect integration with a one-click activation. You have no external cost. You don't need to use external tool. It's used for typical breakout session. Once you do bigger webinars or seminars for 100, 200, 300 people, then of course we recommend to our clients, to the B2Match users, please use one of the big four, the prominent big four: Zoom, Teams, WebEx, or GoToWebinar. This was the switch from workshop to video conferencing. The third switch we have undertaken for B2Match, how to move from a large keynote presentations in big rooms or in big conference halls to live streaming. So on your left side, you see again on the before Corona, the on-site presentations. After Corona, you have the live streams. And again, for the live stream, B2Match also offers two solutions how to manage the live stream. You can use external tools which you're familiar with, which could be Vimeo, YouTube Live, or any other RTMP player. These are the integration of external providers, or you can use the B2Match provided streaming platform, which is Max. Again, a third-party integration. So what's the difference between video conferencing, webinar, and streaming? So for the video conferencing via Zoom, WebEx, Teams is more used for the workshop, but the streaming is used for the large plenary sessions. The size of the audience, so for the video conferencing, you should usually not have not more than 20 to 200 people in the video room. If you have some presentations for 1,000 or 5,000 people, you have to switch to streaming in any case. You cannot manage in Zoom 2,000, 3,000 participants. So this video conferencing tool has some limitations. Yeah, I don't have to replace all this brand name and the requirements. Of course, video conferencing is really simple. You create a Zoom session and that's it. If you want to do streaming, you need something Zoom or Teams, which you have later on connect to Vimeo, YouTube Live. So it's a bit more complicating. So now switching, yeah, that's some typical screenshots how we can integrate live streaming in B2Match. That's a typical two screenshots from a live stream integration. We had some months ago a very prominent participant. I guess I don't have to tell you who is the person on the left slide. I guess this is Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the Commission. Yes. And by the way, if you talk about live streaming, here you get some behind the scene. So one of my clients sent me the screenshot how the live streaming is managed. If you want to offer a professional live streaming, then you need camera crew and studio, and then you go quickly to 10,000 to 30,000 euro. So it's a real challenge. But luckily, we can also do small events with webinar tools like Zoom, etc., which of course you don't need a professional camera team. But if you want to go to hybrid event, then you always have to consider the camera team. Yeah, it's really amazing and impressive. Yeah, what kind of technology is behind a perfect virtual or hybrid event? If you have live speakers on a podium, which have to be streamed all over Europe or on the whole world. So let's go. How did B2Match event management platform adopt to fully online or hybrid event? First of all, integrating third-party software tool providers. You speed up development. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, and that's why we integrated Twilio, Daily, and Max. Very important for a matchmaking tool provider like B2Match. You must be open. You must have interfaces, connection to other premium providers like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, WebEx, etc. Otherwise, if people cannot connect Zoom, whatever, or similar tools like Vimeo, YouTube, you are fail as a matchmaking provider. And of course, simple setup and customization. So in B2Match, how is a virtual or hybrid event managed? If it's a hybrid event, we ask the participant, do you want to join on-site, remote, or probably you don't know. Based on this on-site or remote, we can customize in B2Match which workshop sessions are accessible to the on-site people, which are only accessible to the remote people. The same for the one-to-one meetings. If both meetings partners are If both meetings partners are on site, then the meetings are scheduled on table. If it's a hybrid event, if one or both partners join remote, then the one-to-one meetings are scheduled as a video call. And now I guess I come to my last slide. So on-site, virtual, hybrid, some findings and impression. So as you can see in this table, from the good old times, everything was more or less on-site, no virtual, no hybrid. So in the how shall I say, in the beginning of in the last 12 months, a low number of on-site meetings, 90% virtual and 5% hybrid. And B2Match expect for the autumn and winter season this year, 30% on-site events, 30% virtual, and 40% hybrid. And probably the most important finding, if you move an event from on-site to virtual, is the number of participants. As you can see in the screenshot here, this was one event, the applied artificial intelligence event. In the first 2018, 2019, okay, I can see here the number has gone. We had 500 participants. And when we moved these events from on-site to virtual, in 2020, the number raised to 2,500 participants. And in 2021, it's about 2,000. So we have doubled or even tripled the number of participants. So one big advantage of the virtual hybrid event, you get more participants on board. You can manage a higher internationality because people don't have to travel. And yeah, more participant at the event means more one-to-one meetings, and as a goal or as a result of more meetings, you have probably more connection between participants, researchers, and industry. Yeah, this was my presentation about how B2Match were managed or faced with the Corona break. We succeeded in transferring a matchmaking platform from on-site to virtual, let's say, within 3 months, and I guess we was rather successful. Many thanks for your attention. I hope I could make myself clear, and if there are some questions right now or after in the seminar or in the breakout session, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Good, many thanks. Very clear presentation indeed, and a very professional approach to virtual and hybrid events. Thanks very much. We're running a bit late, so I would encourage anybody with questions to put them on the chat. And I'd like to move on a little bit, otherwise we will run over. My own presentation, I'm not going to present it now. It will be made available. It's 5 slides, and it's about a step-by-step best practice guide to organizing brokerage events. It's a deliverable of the Enriched program. It's not yet been, it's been submitted, but not yet approved. Once it's approved, it will become generally available. It's very comprehensive. It covers preparation, the event itself, and follow-up. It gives a lot of emphasis on not only the tools for matchmaking, but the importance of aligning objectives. And it hopes to prepare the way for actual pilot brokerage events within the context of the Enriched program. And that is the subject of the brief presentation of Anne-Charlotte Joubert, and I give her the floor now for her slides, so you can see what's coming.
Thank you, Nigel. I hope you all see my screen. Just shout if you don't. In the context of Enriched and kind of in line with this webinar, we have launched a month ago a call to organize a brokerage event by our Enriched associate members. So this call is dedicated to you as part of our Enriched community. Now I'm going to briefly present you what this call is about. So bear in mind that the deadline for submitting your proposal is set on the 31st of August at 5 o'clock. Yeah, we like to make you work during the summer. What can you do? So basically, we are calling for pilot events for research infrastructures to engage with industry. You can organize events that may be whether face-to-face, virtual or hybrid, and maybe regional, national or international in their scope. You've just learned all the opportunities on organizing such type of event. The target audiences may be upstream industry as supplier, downstream industry as users, or co-development and joint innovation with industry, or a combination of these targets. Style, content, tools, etc. That's all up to you, so don't hesitate to be innovative. We seek to support events having value to our Enriched network, of course, and we expect you to demonstrate the role of research infrastructures in industry needs. Eligibility, so as I mentioned in my introduction, you need to be an associate research infrastructure or partner to the Enriched project. You need to assign one appropriate staff member who will be responsible for the organization of your event, and you need to have attended at least one or more of the first series of Enrich Your Knowledge training webinars. So if you are attending or joining us today, you're already eligible there. What can you get? So we aim to support application up to 5,000 euros. You can use this budget for facilitation and license costs for online events, staff costs for organizations, speaker travel costs, catering costs for face-to-face events. Your event has to be done by the 31st of March 2022 with a full report due 1 month after the event conclusion. This is for our paperwork. Of course, we need you to send us bills, receipts, and best value for money to be able to pay the amount. So if you have brilliant ideas, just apply now. All information can also be found on our website, and we will inform the selected participant on the 30th of September this year. That's it for me. And yeah, if you have any question, please send us an email or.
Thanks, Charlotte. As you will all see, the new initiatives are rolling out from Enriched, and we hope that you'll make use of this or other facilities available. Thanks. Okay, we have arrived at the point of going into breakout sessions. We have 25 minutes of formal time left, so I think we will probably be, restricted to about 20 minutes for this, but I now give the floor to Laurent and Rebecca to guide us through this.